From Dallas to New York City, big city residents are attached to farms all over rural America, and that association means millions of dollars for some of those farms. We dug into the programs meant to help farmers during tough times and found out a lot of that information is kept secret, including the names of those big city residents. Here's Secret Subsidies. The federal government is paying out farm subsidies, taxpayer money, using the names of a senior designer based in New York, a luxury suite coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, and a judge in Shreveport, Louisiana.
I mean, is it fair?
No, it's not fair.
According to subsidy watchdog, the Environmental Working Group, since 2014, all farm subsidy programs paid out $81.1 billion. Through USDA records, we've uncovered the federal government allows some of the country's largest farms to get subsidy checks that hit seven figures, using the names of big city residents, oftentimes family members who don't appear to be regularly tilling land or harvesting crops.
If you have any kind of integrity, you'd say no to it.
Darvin Bentledge isn't one of those large farmers. He owns a small family farm in Missouri, just like his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather.
It's in your blood, you know, it's who you are, more or less. It's not a job, it's not a occupation.
Last year, his total subsidy payments approached $44,000.
Does this program need to be reformed?
Absolutely.
Farming is a risky business, so the federal government offers subsidies to help farmers mitigate risks often out of their control.
The intention of these farm subsidies are to go to farmers, people who actually live and work on farms.
But our investigation uncovered some of these subsidies are calculated based on people who live and work hundreds of miles away from the farms that get the money. Here's how. Most subsidies have a cap, but many also allow farms to exceed the cap if they have partners in the farm who are actively engaged in the farm's operation. More people means more money for farms that are often already at an advantage because of their physical size. But Ann Scheckinger says the definition of actively engaged is vague, so it allows farms to be paid for actively engaged partners who Scheckinger says actually might provide little value to the operation.
There's no definition of how much time is enough. So you can just call into a few shareholder calls every year or visit the farm once.
So it benefits the farm to have as many partners as they can?
Definitely. There's an unlimited number of partners that every farm can have. So your farm can have an unlimited number of people, each getting the payment limit of farm subsidies.
We spent months requesting records from the federal government, digging into some of the largest farm subsidy recipients, asking for the individual members of each partnership.
Have you ever seen anyone get that list before?
We have not seen people get that list since the 2008 Farm Bill.
We did, and discovered from 2016 to 18, a Mississippi farm received $400,000 in subsidies in the name of Cameron Egan Seward, who, according to a business webpage, is a senior designer at a New York City-based design firm. In that same 3-year period, an Arkansas farm received $337,000 of taxpayer money in the name of Kristen Brantley. According to LinkedIn and the NFL, she's a luxury suite coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. Records show her husband is connected to the farm through family. And Judge Aaron Lee Garrett is a partner for a Louisiana farm. Over those 3 years, the federal government sent nearly $250,000 to the farm in the judge's name. And there were others, including insurance agents and a psychologist. We sent letters to some of the largest farm partnerships and some of the named partners. One recipient did respond, a woman associated with a Mississippi farm, who told us she was unaware her name was linked to more than $130,000 in subsidies. She told us her husband worked for that farm at one time, but wasn't aware her name was being used to receive a subsidy. We found evidence that suggests some other people listed as partners may not know about the subsidies. In redacted Department of Agriculture documents, we could see a few clues like this: dozens of signatures on lines for various named partners. Almost all ended the same way. One person appears to sign for most partners, and EWG says it's likely for that to be perfectly legal because of the way the programs operate.
It really says to us that these programs need to be reformed.
Robert Serio has represented nearly 500 farms and says he thinks all of these farms and these partners are following the law.
So it's just not people out there, it is partners who are actively engaged in farming.
How would someone like them qualify to be a partner?
Well, they could perform a function of management that was critical to the operation. So I don't know, and they have to. If I had a brother who was, let's say, an expert in marketing, but he wasn't on the farm, he could be a partner because he could do the marketing for my farm, and he could live in New York City.
Serio has binders for each farm he represents with hundreds of pages of documents on these partnerships that he submits to the government.
I'm going to prove up front to them, or I'm going to tell the FSA who my partners are, what they're going to do, how my partnership is going to operate, where I borrow money, how much money I'm going to borrow, where I'm going to lease my equipment, how much I'm going to pay for it.
It looks like it could allow farms with a lot of family members or a large family to essentially get more taxpayer money.
Well, that argument can be said about every program that the government ever runs. Somebody can get some money that the taxpayer doesn't like to get.
Subsidies going to these farms is not a flaw of the system. It's how Congress designed it.
The present law allows second, I don't know, maybe it's a little distorted to say second and third cousins, nieces, but for sure I know it includes nieces and nephews. That's how you get the people on Wall Street that never see the farm to getting a payment, and that's wrong. Not only that, but it wastes a lot of taxpayers' money.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley has tried to change the law, adding caps and limiting farms to just one manager. But he says every time after he passes those changes in the Senate, they're gutted in the U.S. House.
But everybody getting this help ought to have dirt under their fingernails.
The federal government gave us the partner names for 10 family farms, but it's likely we'll never be able to report the findings you saw in this story again. The reason why, as we continue to request more information on more farms and their partners, the flow of information came to an end. The government stopped handing over the data, unwilling to tell us the names of big city recipients receiving big taxpayer payouts. But to Darvin Bentledge, taxpayer money being used for people tangentially related to a farm just seems wrong.
It's embarrassing, you know.
We should know who's a part of these partnerships.
Absolutely. We should know everything about the food we eat and how it's raised. There should be no blocking of anything. It should be totally transparent.
Because if there's nothing to hide, they should give it out, right?
Right. That's where you build your confidence and trust, is by being transparent and letting people know who's getting what.
There's even more secrecy when it comes to these subsidies. For example, the USDA would not hand over records about how many employees work at each farm and how big they are. They claim the law protects that information and they can't give it out.